So Pokemon isn't really a hard game, though I will say there are some hard aspects of Pokemon. For example, competitive Pokemon is fundamentally difficult, but we're actually not going to talk about that for this video. I'm actually going to talk about things in Pokemon that are fundamentally difficult and tedious, but you get a very sick reward for doing tedious tasks. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the hardest things to do in Pokemon games. Now, as I said just now, I want to focus on things that are difficult, but you get a cool reward for doing so, not just bragging rights. So my 150 plus streak in the BDSP Battle Tower won't be included, but the first thing I want to go over is the original colored Magearna, aka the Pokeball variation. Now, this isn't the first time I've talked about Pokeball Magearna, as it's technically the rarest Pokemon, not including any shinies, of course. Though actually getting it isn't an easy feat. The way you get it is to complete the national dex in Pokemon Home. And before you Poindexters in the comments go like, actually, you can connect the national dex from Pokemon Bank to Pokemon Home, so it isn't that hard. Look, you can stop typing your comment. You know who you are. Stop it. No. But yeah, you can't get Pokemon Bank anymore, so if you didn't get it to begin with, well, you're out of luck. Let's just say you're starting with Pokemon Home and you have every Pokemon game on the Switch with their respective DLCs and Pokemon Go. You only have 1,002 Pokemon exactly, and it's going to be a pain in the ass to get the rest of them. You gotta realize, majority of these Pokemon are mythicals, and while some of them are easy to get in their respective games, if you don't have Pokemon Bank to transfer to Pokemon Home, you just can't get them. Also, a lot of these mythicals you just can't get in general, and you can't use the GTS since the GTS bans mythical Pokemon entirely. So your only option is to trade someone for it, which is almost impossible if you don't know the right people. And there's also a few things I have to mention. One is that someone told me you only have to get every Pokemon up to Eternatus. I've also heard other answers like up to Calyrex or onto Petarant, so there's not really any real way to tell unless you somehow were able to check in real time. Another is when this variant Magearna was released, you needed a living dex, which meant you need one of every Pokemon in an evolution line. So the fact that they made this challenge easier and completing a full national dex is still not an easy feat. I feel like this is one of the hardest things a Pokemon player can do. Next is the hardest shiny to get, and yeah, it's Manaphy. There's like 1,000 videos going over how hard shiny Manaphy is to get, so I'll try to keep this one brief. Basically, you needed to beat Pokemon Ranger in the special mission that lets you transfer the egg to a Gen 4 game. From there, you need to trade to a second Generation 4 game. The reason why you need to do this is that Manaphy is supposed to be shiny locked, but to work around this, you need to trade to another game so that it can actually be shiny. But if it's not shiny in that second game, reset the first one, and basically, you just have to reset it back and forth until Manaphy is shiny. Yeah, I don't need to explain why this is difficult, let alone the 1 in 8,192 odds you need to do in order for it to be shiny. There's actually a video by Trails Pokemon that goes over that you can get shiny Manaphy a different way, but that method is straight up more tedious than the said trading the egg with yourself until it's shiny method. But yeah, shiny Manaphy is probably the hardest shiny Pokemon to get, but there's of course other shiny Pokemon I do have to mention, like shiny Jirachi from the bonuses from Coliseum, in the shiny costume that can show up in Battle Revolution. But yeah, shiny Manaphy is insane to get. Another crazy hard thing to get in Pokemon are the black and white trainer cards from Pokemon Black and White. Now, getting a Black Star trainer card is not an easy feat, as it signifies a 100% completion on a Pokemon game. The Generation 4 games, as well as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, have this. And Black and White as well also has it technically, plus the sequels, but it's practically the same thing, there's just no stars to it. Now, if you want a black and white trainer card, you need to beat Getz's in Team Plasma, get 100 props in Pokemon Musical, complete the National Dex, beat the Battle Subway, Super Singles, and Super Doubles, and get all 33 Entry Link Pass powers. Now, being guesses is an easy feat, and getting all 100 Pokemon musical props, which doesn't seem to be too hard, but I don't think many people know much about Pokemon musicals in general, since it's essentially a shittier version of Pokemon Contest. But the last 3 requirements really push this challenge over the edge. First, you need to complete the National Dex, which is a mainstay in Pokemon games, but getting every Pokemon was a lot more difficult back then than it is nowadays. You basically need both Gen 5 games, some Gen 4 games, and probably Pokemon Emerald if you need it, which you probably do. And you need 636 Pokemon to complete the National Dex compared to the 482 Pokemon you need in the Gen 4 titles and in BDSP. You then would need to get a 49 streak in the Battle Subway for Super Singles and Doubles, which you don't even have access to until you get a 21 streak on the normal Battle Subway for Singles and Doubles. In the normal mode isn't easy either. Last time I played the Battle Subway Doubles for the normal mode, I was struggling a lot, and I was using a Garchomp and a Zapdos as my lead. But back then, when I played, I didn't even know much about competitive Pokemon, and I really sucked back then compared to now, so I probably wouldn't struggle if I played it now. But I digress. The super variants are a whole different beast with the likes of perfect EVs and even some legendary Pokemon. Fun fact, if you include all battles you'd have to face in the Battle Subway, you'd have to win a total of 140 battles compared to the 100 win streak you'd have to get in the other games that have the Black Star Trainer card. Yeah, Gen 5 is not fucking around. And finally, you'd have to get all Entralink pass powers, which I don't even know much about the Entralink. Apparently, it was linked to the Pokemon Dream World, which straight up doesn't exist anymore, and I don't even know much other than you probably need 2 games most likely. So yeah, this is definitely the hardest Pokemon game to 100%. But do you know what's not hard? You subscribing to the channel. In fact, subscribing is pretty easy actually. All you have to do is click a button. But yeah, my goal is to get 2,000 subscribers before the year ends, so if you'd subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Now for this portion of the video, I want to notice the Pokemon spin-off game since there's very tough tasks, and that includes getting Ho-Oh in Pokemon Coliseum. Now to get Ho-Oh, you need to beat the game, purify all 48 Shadow Pokemon, and beat Mount Battle in Battle Mode. Now the first 2 are pretty straightforward and self-explanatory, right? But Mount Battle is not easy to do. For starters, you need to beat 100 consecutive trainers. Next is that it's open level, so that means you and your opponent will always be on equal playing field. One last thing is that at the later floors, expect to fight all 3 legendary beasts, all 3 Regis, Latias and Latios, as well as Groudon and Kyogre. And if you lose a single time, you have to start at the very beginning, is what I would say if the game didn't give you the ability to get continues from not losing a single Pokemon in the battle, so you can kind of just farm them in the early levels. Also, you can also probably just run a team of, 6 legendaries to make it easier on yourself. So yeah, not as hard as it actually seems, but it's still not an easy task at all. We now get to the last part of the video. Now what I'm going to talk about is so absurd, but you probably already saw the thumbnail and you know what it is, so let's just get this shit over with. And that's catching Kecleon in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. Well, you technically don't catch Pokemon, you recruit them, but it's basically the same thing. But Kecleon is an absolute monster to deal with. For starters, Kecleon has a recruitment rate of negative 49.5% in the game. And a lot of Pokemon have negative recruitment rates, but they pale in comparison to Kecleon's astronomically low recruitment rate. But there's a way to increase this. For starters, you need a Pokemon that's in the B or H IQ group. You then need to have at least 550 points to get the Fast Friend IQ skill. For reference, it takes about 200 points for some Pokemon with friendship evolutions to evolve, which is not easy on its own, let alone getting 550 points. And believe it or not, no Pokemon you get at the start of the game is in the B or H IQ group Except for motherfucking Chikorita, boy, they actually found a reason to pick Chikorita in the Pokemon game. Oh my god! But after that, you need to level up that said Pokemon that has the Fast Friend IQ scale to at least level 99 to have the maximum boosted recruitment rate you can get. Then you have to get the Golden Mask, which is not an easy item to get, and everything combined gives you a total increase of 49.6%, which makes Kecleon's recruitment rate 0.1% at the absolute highest. Thankfully, if you use a Wonder Mail, getting everything you need isn't as painful as it sounds, but now it's time for the hard part, fighting Kecleon. You see, Kecleon isn't that hard to come across. The actual hard part is being prepared and recruiting it. You see, Kecleon has max stats in the game, and it moves at double speed, so every attack you hit, it's gonna hit 2 attacks at you back. And every time he wants to run that fade for stealing an item at his shop, he calls up his homeboys, and you're basically fighting a 1v10 at times. Basically, you need a Violent Seed to do any real damage that maxes out your attacking stats, and you need a mobile orb so that Kecleon doesn't jump your ass. And even then, this is a battle of nutrition. You can run out of moves if you're not prepared enough. You can accidentally die to a Kecleon, and I kid you not, the game will kick you out of the dungeon for taking too long. Believe it or not, at some point back in 2021, I actually recruited Kecleon in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and I still have proof of having one, but it actually took me multiple days and multiple hours trying to recruit this thing, and I got unlucky more times than I could count, but I finally was able to get it. And I was using Wonder Mail to get everything I needed quicker. If you were wanting to recruit Kecleon without Wonder Mail and getting everything legit, good fucking luck, because you're going to need it. Recruiting Kecleon is definitely one of the hardest challenges to do in all of Pokemon, period. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. I know there's lots of other things I didn't cover that are also hard and tedious, and you obviously get rewarded for them. So, if you want me to make a part 2, let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord server, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.